Hello and welcome to episode 8 of The Complete Charting Guide, where I must strive to sate my crippling addiction to Werners. Anyway, it's recommended you watch video 7, The Fundamentals of Placing Notes, before watching this one. So before I get into it, these notes that I'm placing down right here are going to be called gems instead of notes, because calling the notes that I place down notes and the notes in the song notes is getting confusing. So these actual objects are going to be referred to as gems, and the pitches of music in the song are still going to be called notes. Rapping is based on the theory that when players read and play a chart, they are looking at the general shapes of the gem patterns and not the gems themselves. To charters, this means that in many cases it is possible to ignore the accuracy of each gem and instead show the overall movement of notes. So I'm going to edit in some footage that I'll make later, but this red line is kind of where the player's eyes are going to be looking at in this song. They don't just look at the notes like this and zigzag all over the place, because it's not realistic to play like that if you're playing this fast. Anyway, to give you a more rigorous definition, rapping is to sacrifice one-to-one note-to-gem accuracy in order to chart phrases that otherwise would not be possible to represent. So I have this audio here, which is just a huge ascending order of notes. Let's hear it. Alright, so obviously we only have 5 colors and there's like 20 or so notes right here. And you have quite a few options, so I'm just going to start going through them. The way you can think about rapping is how many gems are in each section of notes. So for example, the most simple grouping would be 5 notes, and you could just continue to put 5. So that's the most simple option, although it's also the laziest option. Next, you could do groupings of 4. So one way you could go about doing groupings of 4 is like this, and then just copy and paste this all the way down. Next, you can do sections of 3. The most basic of patterns you can do, again, is this kind of ascending, I don't even know what you'd call this, just 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes. So it looks like it ends right here. Maybe drag this up to orange. You can also do 2 notes, although it's a bit harder to make it work. The way you'd do this, I guess, would be like this. You get the point. Now I've shown you all the basic ways you can use these, but you can also do more split up patterns. So let me show you what I mean. You can do a grouping of 4 notes like this and this, but you can also move the notes inside. This is still a group of 4. Same with this and same with this. And the way the perceived pitch here is going to be is the more amount of time that the player's eyes spend at the bottom over here is going to make them seem like the pitch of the overall section is lower. So for example, the next lowest section of 4 you could use is this, because the player's eyes are going up, 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 then they're going up, up, and only at the very end is it going up to orange. Then the next section, highest, would be like this, because you have 2 notes at the bottom, so they're spending half as much time looking at the bottom as the top. Then you have this, they're looking at the top more than the bottom, and finally the 4-note pattern, the maximum right here. For groups of 3, it's the same idea, it's just more compact. So again, you only move up the topmost note, and this you're spending 2/3 of your time looking at the bottom as opposed to 1/3 looking at the top. Then you can go like this. This pattern of 1 2 3 1 2 4 1 3 4, as I'll call it, can just be translated upwards. So if you select all this and drag it, a really fast way to move that. So then these are all the next ones, and then finally the maximum, like this. So that works. All the examples I showed you of using every possible pattern didn't actually make it to the end. So what you do, if you're using a pattern like this, like let's say you're using a normal 3-note pattern, you can just start over from the bottom and then continue going upwards. So you can just start from the middle. But this does not apply to all situations. Only in a case where it's continuously ascending and you're keeping the same pattern is kind of when I'd recommend using this. So you can actually mix and match all of these sections and get more interesting patterns. Now with 5-note section, you are not able to add any more, because if you do, then you just have smaller sections. You can do 4 and 2, you can do 3 and 2, 2 and 3. You can do 3 3 2 like this. You can do 3 and then 4 with something like this. Right, there's just so many options. The more notes you have per section, the faster you're going to get from green to orange. So with 5, you can see it takes 5 notes to get there. But if I lined up 2 4-note sections, then I've taken the slope of my red line and I've gone from here to here, and the slope of my line is much lower. Now with 3 notes, it'll go even further. And then with 2 notes, that's a very uncommon thing to do. I should mention that you just flip any of these upside down and you have the same thing for descending. So like 3 and 2 and 3, you just do it upside down and it works. When you're rapping, especially for difficult situations, it's almost like a puzzle where you want to put down what is the most essential part, what absolutely cannot be changed. So in this case, you want the very first note to be green because it's the lowest note in the whole entire section. And you want the highest note to be orange because it is the absolute highest note in every section. Then you could say, okay, well, this is the second lowest note, so that should be red, and this is the second highest note, so this should be blue. And you could keep on going with that logic, but eventually it breaks because then you're not rapping correctly. But really you have what is absolutely forced at the end and the beginning, and then in between is where you do your magic with the rapping to make it all connect together. Alright, so example 2. Let's give it a listen first. Now, as I'm listening to this, I'm already imagining the red lines in my head. So if I edit in some graphics right here, it kind of looks like this. So if I can follow those red lines, that'll be nice for me. It might be possible, it might not be, but in a perfect world, that's what I would want. So rapping is kind of like doing a puzzle. What you want to do is set some foundation for yourself that you can build off of and work off of. For me, that's going to be the beginning and the ending of each of those lines I was imagining. Then I can interpret what I want to do in between to make those link up. So for the first one, because it's the highest set of 5 notes, then I want the beginning to be red and the end to be orange. And the reason I don't do something like starting on yellow to orange is because I just don't believe I'm going to have enough room in between here to make it work. So I'm going to start on red and end on orange. Then I think I'm going to go from blue to green on this one. And the reason I'm doing blue and not orange again is because if I do 2 oranges in a row, that's breaking the rule. You cannot have two of the same gem represent two different notes. So I'm going to go blue to green. And then I think I'll just go red, orange again, and then blue to green again. So it's right around here maybe. No, right here. Right there. So now my job is to connect these phrases together. So I'm going to ignore everything else for now and just focus on this sequence of 5 notes. And if I get a good pattern for that, I can copy it and paste it to the other ones just in different spots. What are my options? There's 5 notes, so I could try maybe doing a 5-note sequence, but that would require going from green to orange. And maybe that seems like it would work, but then the second one cannot follow that pattern because the highest note has to be here. I could try a section of 4 plus 1, but there is no section of 1, so that's not going to work. So my remaining options are some combination of a section of 2 and a section of 3. So your 2 options here are going to be 3 plus 2, or you can do 2 plus 3. So, you know, section of 2, section of 3. I'm not going to go into all of the super advanced reasons for this. I'm going to do 3 plus 2, but really either one is acceptable. Just I think this one looks a little bit better. Since I've established I want to use 3 plus 2, I'm just going to copy and paste that all the way through. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, going from blue to green. Then this one I wanted red to orange again. Just copy it, then blue to green. There it is. So let's listen and see how that looks. Now at the end, this goes back up, and since these 2 notes are the exact same pitch, if you listen, you do not want to put this to red. It does not look like these are the same pitch. So this is acceptable for the end here. I would say that's an acceptable pattern for a novice. Now there is a lot of super advanced things I could talk about to make it feel a little bit better to play, look cleaner, but I think that's beyond the scope of this video, so this is all I'm going to do with it for now. Now as a final note, with rapping, we can play with the pitch of the gems, and we can kind of interpret where we want them in order to get these red lines to match up, but we do not want to move the rhythm of these gems. We want the gems to still line up with the rhythm of the notes in the song. Now, I would assign homework, but the problem is that rapping is very subjective, and theoretically, there is no right answer. You can't really have an answer key tell you what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right. At that point, you might as well get your own audio, chart a song that you like, ask for feedback, and find out from there. Anyway, I think that's all for this video. Our next video is going to be about the basics of sustains, and until then, happy charting.